This conference will now be recorded.
And again, welcome everybody to the November Mix It Up. We do a monthly community event just to get people together, talk about the software we love, and share inside tips and tricks and try to make everybody's life just a little bit easier. I'm Mark Rhodes, and I am the host because nobody else has volunteered. And Kim Congleton is our lead bartender, and she'll be sharing a drink in just a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and let you know that next month's Mix It Up is going to be on December 16th. And guess what? It's the year end. Probably a lot of us are saying thank goodness. And we thought it'd be a great opportunity to share some tips and tricks related to year end, specifically with the financial close and everything that our friends in accounting departments across the land have to deal with over the next couple months. So hopefully you can join with that. We're going to have a bunch of different people, MVPs, customers, partners, just kind of sharing their thoughts and what they've picked up over the years. You can go ahead, and if you've joined as a member of the meetup, you'll get those notifications and can register for that. Always a good idea to register because you'll get the recording if you can't make that particular date and time. So look forward to that. I hope that works out on your schedule. And again, if you're just joining in, turn your webcam on if you'd like. Staying on mute is a good idea to minimize the background, but know where the unmute button is so you can ask questions. I definitely want it to be interactive today. And, oh, you know what? We do have a survey at the end. I will pop in the forms, Microsoft Forms URL when I get done talking. I'll pop it into the chat there. But I'm thinking we're just going to award all the presenters today with a tie-dye shirt and not take a vote because they spent a lot of time getting ready for this and sharing with us today. So we're very appreciative for that. Before I introduce them, I think it's time to make a drink. And yeah, I'm going to apologize again. I don't know what I was thinking looking at this recipe for us. This is a little bit more complicated than we like. A lot of ingredients you have to have on hand, but I think Kim is up to the challenge. And Kim, you want to show us how to make a cranberry orange gin fizz?
Yeah, I think you definitely owe me some drinks for this one because I am in no way a professional bartender, as you will soon find out. So first thing we're going to do for this is use gin. You can see I have my gin here. It smells strangely like tequila. I'm not sure how that happened. So we're just going to pour in an ounce of gin. That looks like, I don't know, maybe that's an ounce. Then we're going to do the 20 other ingredients in this one. So there's a half an ounce of orange liqueur, because I'm not going to try and say the other name. And then 2 ounces of cranberry juice. I mean, I'm not sure it's all going to fit in here. I might have put too much tequila in.
No.
Then 1 tablespoon. Yeah, right. Oh, I mean gin, not tequila. It's gin. And then 1 tablespoon of freshly squeezed orange juice. That's definitely more than that.
Very nice.
And some cranberry Sprite.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to go shopping today, Mark, just to get all this.
Well, so you got the big bottle. That means you can't stop at one drink, I'm saying.
Yeah, probably not. And then I think it just doesn't look all the way full. Maybe we'll just do a little bit more. Maybe just a little bit more. There. All right. So that's how you do that. Oh, I think I was supposed to use a cocktail shaker, but I'll just stir my glass a little bit. So we'll give it a little try here. That's not bad. And as you probably guessed, this is not gin. This is actually one of my favorite tequilas. This is Avión Silver tequila. It's harvested by hand, slow roasted, small batch. It works really well with anything that has citrus in it. So obviously it kind of actually works. So cheers, everyone.
All right. Cheers.
Did anybody see that Tesla just came out with their own tequila?
I did see that.
Goodness.
Has anybody got Tesla tequila tasted yet?
Wow.
No, I did not.
Very interesting. Do you get a case of it when you buy one of the cars?
I don't know. I just saw the headline go by on a feed a day or two ago.
I was a little delayed. I was going to say shocking.
So I hope this is gosh, if we're able to have anybody over for drinks anytime soon, this might be a good holiday drink for you. If anybody puts together a drink that looks like the picture with the sugar rim and on the twist and all of that, send it on over because I'd be very impressed with that. That looks like a lot of work. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed that and puts you a little bit in the festive holiday spirit. Once again, well, I think you got it all. Webcams and mute and so forth. Be ready for some questions. Let's have an interactive discussion today. And again, could not be more appreciative and really excited to have with us 3 users from a couple companies out there that have been longtime NAV customers. We have Andrea Hall, Jason Wilder from Stonewall Kitchen. We have Missy Campbell from Terso Solutions. And I'll let you figure out which one is upgraded already and which one wasn't. We thought it'd be fun to talk about. What are the considerations? What are the concerns? How are companies evaluating the upgraded Business Central? And then more importantly, what decision did they make relative to when and how and why did they make that decision? And just get a little bit of an inside scoop because I know every customer out there is going through that same kind of evaluation. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Andrea and Jason first. And guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I have a few things to share, and then we'll promptly turn it over to Jason, who has the real content. I thought I might get a free t-shirt, so that's why I wanted to be a part of this. So no, I really miss seeing all of you. I really missed Summit in person. So this is a little bit of a kind of filling that hole I have. So nice to see you guys. We are from Stonewall Kitchen. I know some of you, but for those who maybe don't know us, we are a manufacturer of gourmet specialty foods. We're in New England, but growing like crazy, multi-sales channel, wholesale around the world, website, catalog. We're dropping 3 million catalogs in the next few weeks, so it's going to be extra busy, 10 stores and all that kind of stuff. So we have been using NAV since 1999. I helped Jason, who is the master implementer, back in 99. We're big NAV fans. Been through a lot with NAV, and it's served our company well. We have grown incredibly. We have divisions and aspects of our company we never dreamt of, and division has enabled all of it to happen. So Jason might have the real answer, but I was trying to imagine how many NAV upgrades we've actually done. So he may have the count. But it feels easily half a dozen, and some have gone really, really well. Some have not gone well. We have done all but one ourselves. We are blessed to have Jason as our in-house developer, NAV developer, and NAV specialist. We have built a very strong bench, so we are able to take on, 90% of the heavy lifting of an upgrade. And I think that's helped them go well. And I was going to say something else, but as Microsoft is transitioning NAV, obviously figuring out upgrade and the whole move to BC is incredibly, you need to be incredibly thoughtful about it. And Jason will share with you on that. A big thing for us that he'll talk about is some of the add-ons that we have, which adds to the complexity. And we're sort of used to being independent, but in this case, we're really at the mercy of some of our add-ons and their approach to getting up to speed with the technology. So we were on deck to do an upgrade this year and waived it off for another year because of business reasons. We had other projects that we needed to do. So we're still working towards jumping into actually doing the upgrade. But with that, I will turn it over to Jason, who can explain the realities of the things that we consider when we're going through this.
Thanks, Andrea. Super nice. First off, I gotta apologize. My background is horrible. I think it's the worst one I've ever seen. Like, I'm in a storage area upstairs. Like, everyone else's background's awesome. They have books and pictures and things like that. This is storage, so I apologize for that. It's pretty ugly. I gotta get like one of those big things you can hang and just like put it over there. So yeah, I've been with Stone Kitchen forever, since 1999. I did leave there in 2003 for a year to go work at a solution center, AVF Consulting. You guys may have heard of that one. Actually, that's where Charge Logic spawned out of. So I was there for a while. I came back to Stonewall Kitchen and kind of became the developer at that point. I was actually an accounting manager before that at Stonewall. So yeah, let's get right into it. So upgrading, there's tons to say about upgrading. Let me get to the next slide here.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah.
I just got to point out, because as soon as you mentioned backgrounds, I started noticing everybody's background, and the best background ever has got to be Bob Contreras there with the Kramer behind him. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
It is good.
Thank you.
Yep, we see that every day from Stonewall Kitchen as well. So when you start talking about, like, everyone's on different versions and things like that, but to know a little bit about what versions are what helps a little bit when you start talking about upgrades. We are on now 2018, which is version 11. So there are now 6 more versions since then, and we upgraded a year and a half ago, I think. I have that right? I think a year and a half ago to 2018. So there's version 12 was the first official version that was Business Central. Version 11 was the last nav version. And now they're all up to version 17, which was released in October of 2020. And they've started to call them Business Central 2020 Wave 1, Wave 2. So next year it will be Business Central 2021 Wave 1, Wave 2. Wave 1 will come out in April, Wave 2 will come out in October. And they have been sticking to that. And even though they're doing 2 upgrades or 2 versions a year, there's tons of stuff in these versions, like as much as there ever was. Like if you guys can remember back to version 2.6, or does anyone remember version 3? It was called Navision Attain. Anyone remember that? So there's as much stuff. Do people remember that one? So that was kind of a weird name. There've always been some weird names for Navision stuff, but that was the weirdest. But I still have dreams about version 2.6. I don't know if you guys remember the books. There was like books that came with it and stuff for learning, the fixed asset book, all that stuff. So I put a little link in here as well. Let me see if I can click and go to it. It's just a Microsoft site that lists the versions, and it didn't look like it came up. So you guys can, we can maybe pass this PowerPoint on to you guys after, and it lists the versions from 2018 upward, what they're called, and some other stuff like that.
Hey, Jason.
It's really handy if you paste the URL into chat, if you really want us to wander off and look at that.
I will totally do that. I'm not gonna do it right now.
Is that what you're gonna say, Mark?
It's like there's some kind of weird slow thing going on my computer, so I'm not gonna do anything out of the ordinary until after. But I'll totally do that.
Well, Jason, you started in '99. Was that on version 2? 2.0?
Yes, it was either 2 or 2.6. I actually don't remember our initial version. Yeah, and there was actually in 2001, which was around when Microsoft purchased, it was around the time when Microsoft purchased Navision. We went with a sequel version. I don't know if anyone remembers that, and it was a disaster. We did it too early. It was a disaster. There were all sorts of things that were just not working. I don't know if you guys remember, you had to synchronize your users with SQL, all that stuff. So yeah, it's come a long way, I'll tell you that much. But so in deciding, there's basically, if you're on a version before BC14, the decision is, are you going to go with BC14 or BC17? Right now, that's the decision. You don't care about 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There would be no reason for you to go to any of those. There'd be no reason for you to go with NAV 2018. You would do BC14. So I mentioned before how easy it is to get behind in versions. So we're already 6 versions behind. That's really bad. It feels bad, put it that way. We're certainly happy with the version we're on. It's working well.
Probably by design, right?
Yeah. Yes. So unfortunately, Microsoft, they had said October 2020 was going to be the last time that you can get a BC14 license. So come November 2020, you can't get one anymore. So you have no option to go to BC14. Of course, they got a lot of complaints on that, and they've upped it to 2021 October. I have totally confirmed that with our partner. I've seen real proof that he can actually right now give us a license that goes back in time, all the way back actually to NAV 2018. So not only can you get a NAV 2018 license, you can get a BC 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 license. You cannot get a BC 12 license. No idea why. I don't know if there's a really bad version or something like that, but that's off the charts now. So obviously the whole reason to possibly go to BC14 is because it's the last version with CAL. I think everyone knows this, which is the programming language we've used for many, many years. And it's the last version that has the Windows client, which I love. I love the Windows client. I don't want to switch to the web client, but too bad, because that's gone. Does anyone have any other comments on differences? You know, it is basically the programming language behind the scenes and the clients. When you get to 15, those options aren't there anymore. Okay, so I just want to, I've seen some posts and stuff out there, so I want to mention that BC14 Windows client, it's exactly like 2018, which is pretty much exactly like 2016. There may be, someone could probably say, oh, there's this one little thing that's different or something like that, but it's the same thing. The versions are very similar. The things that are different are maybe some features and very much the technology behind the scenes is very different. But besides that, if you're on 2018, if you go to BC14, your users are going to have the same experience if you choose the Windows client, which I call it Windows client versus the Rolltail client, same thing. So this is what I came up with. Obviously, this is my opinion. So, you know, there's certainly other ways to do this, but these are the things I've come up with that will help you kind of decide which way. Do you want to go BC14 or BC17? I mean, obviously you want to go BC17 if there aren't things hindering you with that. Why would you not want to go with the latest and greatest version? So here's what I came up with. So the number of add-ons that you have, it's pretty high impact. If you have a lot of add-ons, that's going to lean you towards going with BC14. Do you have a lot of mods? Also the same thing. Now that you can drill into the details and it may change things, but if you have a lot of mods, generally it's going to take a little while to move all those mods over to AL. BC14 is a great platform to do that. You can get to that platform, and then over time you can start in chunks, start moving your stuff over to AL, which is the argument of why many people are going there. How savvy are your users? Do they know what a keyboard is and what a mouse is? Are they comfortable with computers? Do they, you know, that it really does make a difference, because if they're going to be uncomfortable with the web client, then you got to think about that, because that's not going to be an option if you go to BC17. There's going to be a lot more training and things like that. How good is your partner? Same kind of thing. If you have a partner that you don't like or don't respect or don't think does good work for you, you're kind of in trouble, and you need to think about that a bit, and that would lean you towards BC14 because it's much easier to upgrade to BC14. And then if you have an internal developer, that could sway you either way. He or she may say, oh, we should go BC17. I really feel that's the way to go, or vice versa, and I say something else. So I've thrown together, Andrea, I used, what's that new whiteboard software that we have?
We're using Miro, M-I-R-O.
Yep, barely know what I'm doing in it, but I was able to do this. It's super cool. I really like that software. So this is kind of what I just said, kind of more in a graphical form. So the more add-ons, the more mods, the weaker your users, obviously not like physically weak, but weak in computer experience. Weak partner leads you towards BC14. Fewer add-ons, fewer mods, stronger users, all that stuff leads you towards BC17. So take it all with a grain of salt. There's so many, when you drill into the details, so many different reasons for different things. But any questions on that? That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, on the fewer or more add-ons, I guess I would say all it takes is one add-on that isn't ready to move forward into a BC extension capability that will keep you back in Seaside, BC14, and
Yep.
RTC client. So
Definitely.
it's just, they all have to be ready to go forward.
Yep, that's a super good comment. It really, in some ways, you should look at your add-ons first, and that's the thing that's going to help decide. To be honest with you, that's a great comment, and I want to talk more about add-ons right here too. So this is just kind of words on the graph, and actually now I do want to talk about add-ons. So BC14, there's definitely some add-ons out there that are just slow to adopt AL. So they may just be getting there now, or maybe they just got there a few months ago. Like, okay, we finally have a BC14 version, or maybe they're not going to do it at all. So those are things to keep in mind. And people have just switched to AL, so stabilization, these things, it's almost like a new product again because it's in. I mean, AL is for a CAL developer, AL is a pretty easy switch. But there's just still lots of stuff. The deploying of AL is just a lot different. It's a lot clunkier. So there's just some things that can make it more complicated. So we have one of our add-ons, and I am going to name the name because I'm frustrated with them a little bit, is Avalara. And it's just super frustrating because they did not, this is almost the opposite. They did not create a CAL version for BC14. So last year we started, when I do an upgrade, I always do our add-ons first. You take the add-ons, so we have 5 add-ons, and you figure out in which order you're going to do them. And so Avalara was one of the last ones. So I had done all the other add-ons, merged them in, got all the code in there. I hadn't put our customizations in yet. That's the very, very last. So I get to Avalara and I go to, actually a couple weeks before I even got to it, I started to put my feelers out there to get the objects in CAL. And they sent me a link and I went to it and it had AL. So I started asking around and stuff, and it turns out they never did the upgrade for BC14 in CAL. So now what do I do? So we have 4 add-ons that are in CAL. Probably 1 or 2 of those could have been in AL if I chose. And now I have one that is definitely in AL. And it's complicated because Avalara and Charge Logic, we have Charge Logic as well. Those really need to play nicely together. There's been many difficulties with those in the past. And if Avalara was in AL, it might actually mean Charge Logic needs to be in AL. And you definitely lose some control. If there are any bugs or any glitches in their AL code, I'd no longer have the ability to modify that and to change it. I would have to rely on them. And that's really scary because it could take, who knows, it's totally up to them if it's gonna get fixed or not. So does anybody else have Avalara / Charge Logic or just Avalara? Because it's a pretty big thing. So I was halted in the upgrade last year.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Does anyone else have it in here? If you don't, you're lucky.
Jason, I was just talking to somebody from Archer Point. They were telling me that there is another option out there for, and customers are going to that. I've also been told that Charge Logic is also streamlining the processor or the gateway that you use for that. So my question is, if they're not being, and again, I speak for a client who has Charge Logic too. If they're not being, good for their customers, why aren't more people switching now?
I would say from our perspective, it's a pretty big deal to switch. So you gotta kind of wait. Like, is it a bigger deal to switch to another? You're saying another add-on, another tax add-on, or do we keep this one and we're used to it, we understand it, things like that. So that's from our perspective.
They upgrade at some point.
What's that?
I hope they upgrade at some point.
Yeah. So Avalara has they're an opposite sketch. They have upgraded. They've upgraded to they've done BC14 and further. It's kind of the opposite. It's I don't want AL for BC14. I want all CAL. I don't want to have mixed add-ons. It's like you probably want to do all your add-ons in the same language, probably. Now your own mods you can do in a hybrid mode, which I kind of mentioned down here, which we have done as well. But there's one other thing I want to say about Avalara, which So the solution that I think the way we're going to move forward with this, I mean, we were talking crazy stuff with our partner, like doing Charge Logic and Avalara in AL, which would be weird and probably going to be, we don't even know if it's going to work. So the idea I came up with recently was to actually take our or just actually the Avalara nav 2018 objects and just load them into BC14. I would suspect it would 98% work. There's probably a few functions that have changed and stuff like that, but BC14, it's generally the same thing as nav 2018, except they've added more, they've made it better. Most of the changes there are behind the scenes technology. So I have some pretty high hopes that this is going to work for us. So I'm pretty sure that's the approach we'll take.
Yeah, I would be surprised if you run into many problems just rolling one version forward in the C side.
Totally.
I was just going to mention too, I love when we can just focus on nav, but even, I know this was a couple sentences ago, but for us to consider replacing Avalara, it's also thoroughly integrated into our website so that the two systems work as well. So there again, it becomes a larger decision that we have to make. But again, we'll hope to forge ahead.
So Avalara also, are you using their tax reporting so they do the compliance out to how many states of Nexus?
Sure
it's so awesome. I mean, it really is nice to have them prepare the tax returns for us and stuff like that. It's pretty huge.
So the Wolters folks are the one that hasn't been mentioned in the most recent NavUG string. There is a string of who should I use for tax compliance that got started again in the main NavUG thing, and Wolters, I can't pronounce their whole name, but I think of them as Wolters. What's the whole name?
Wolters Kluwer.
There you go. So they do the whole package, and I actually did run the demo install in a test environment, and it was all Seaside and seemed to work pretty well, but just for other business reasons, we never implemented them in the environment that I ran them through the test.
One of the biggest changes that I'm aware of between the two of them is that Wolters Kluwer charges you once per transaction, and Avalara charges you for each release or hit to their tax engine. But otherwise, my understanding is that they're providing very similar services. But Avalara has the background, Avalara has the numbers, and they have the history. When it works, it works.
Yeah, we've
one
been
thing
on
about
since 2005, and I used to be the biggest fan of Avalara. I'm still a pretty big fan of them, but just some of the programming things are not good. But 2005, we actually created our own integration with them, and it was fabulous. Like 2005, up until we upgraded in 2016, we took their version. I mean, up until that point, it was really, really good. I love the service and all that stuff. But there's just been issues with their code ever since 2016.
I don't think Wolters Kluwer does international though. If I remember correctly, that's why they quickly became off of our list for new tax solutions.
Hey, Jason, and speaking of problems, Andrea earlier said that there was one particular upgrade that y'all probably had the least favor on. Which upgrade was that, going from what to what?
So that was 2.6 to 3.0, and that was in 2003. That's the year that I left. So Stonewall Kitchen had our partner at the time do it, and there was a person, they had a new developer, and he was not very experienced, and I actually remember some of the numbers. They charged $125,000. It ended up being they cut that amount down. I think it might have cut down to like 75 or something like that. But it was pretty disastrous. I fortunately wasn't there for it. So Andrea can probably speak to it too.
Which I was left holding the bag on that one. It was so bad. I've blocked it out of my memory. The one I was referring to, Jason, you'll have to speak to the details, was the upgrade we did execute where Avalara cost us an extra year of the project.
Gotcha. Yes. So that was what I was just speaking about. That was to NAV 2016. So from 2009 to 2016 was that upgrade. And it's not that it was a disaster when we went live. It's just that they had their code did not work with Charge Logic. It just didn't. We weren't the only one that had this problem. And so I would spend sometimes, I'd be on the phone, I had to get on the phone on a call like 3 a.m. because their developers were from India, and like talk to them and try to work through stuff. And it was a nightmare. It went on for months and months and months and months, and it just pushed things out forever. It was just really, really bad. We finally got a stable-ish version with them, and we've been able to carry that version forward to 2018. It's still not perfect, but it's not bad. So that's why I have high hopes to think we just carry that version over to BC 14. I hear there's issues with the AL version of Avalara, but I can't really speak a lot to it. And again, the problem with AL is you can't, as a developer, I can't modify it because most of the people that have done add-ons haven't put events in there yet. So they're the only ones that can touch it, which is pretty scary. What else? That's all I have. I don't have anything else.
Jason, I was going to ask, if you move forward in your development environment, are you using VS Code now, or are you still using the?
Yes. Yeah. So that's kind of this guy down here. So yeah. So when we went to 2018 it's a fabulous version because you can use AL and CAL. It's really cool the way they did it. So we challenged ourselves and we did that. And I did all of our pages, about 300 page modifications, new pages or modifications to existing pages. I did all those in AL, which is awesome because I'll never have to do those again. So we do have a hybrid mode, and so I'm working in 2 different languages. It's a little bit more difficult, but it's prepared me fully for switching to AL when we actually do that. And the nice thing about hybrid mode, which you can do in BC 14 as well, is you can do it slowly. You can say, all right, I'm just gonna go straight CAL for BC 14, and then over the next 6 months, I'm gonna slowly just start moving all my code over to events, and then I'm gonna slowly start moving and do my pages, and then you can kind of go forward and do more stuff like that. So that's one of the main reasons why we would do BC 14. A company that I should have put this on the graph. Now we're talking about it. The length of time that you've had Navision is almost, if you've had Navision for 21 years like us, you have tons of mods. There's no doubt about it. So it would just be really hard to go switch everything over to AL in one upgrade. It'd be really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Jason, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What kind of process did you use, if any, to determine if new functionality and features in the newer versions could replace customizations and or at least address the requirements maybe in a different way? And how did you approach that?
I don't think I have a good answer for that. Basically, it's like by doing research. Like I'll do research and I'll see. I always like to see what's in the new version. Like, oh, here's the list. And then I take that and I kind of know, I know our system pretty well, so I can be like, okay, those 2 things, I think maybe we can abandon those. And an example I can think of is, and this isn't a new feature at all, the item cross-reference table. It's been around forever, but we never used it. I don't know why. So we had our own table and all custom stuff around it, things like that. We have since switched over, I don't know, probably in 2016, switched over to the item cross-reference table, and it's been fabulous. We've added some mods to it and stuff like that, but we use that heavily for integration mapping for items. For example, Amazon, they might have a different item number. So we kind of use that table to map all that stuff. So I don't have a good answer for you, sorry. Like just kind of, we look at what's been listed as new and see if we can work it over. And I do think it's worth the time and effort to do that because, well, that's just what I believe.
And also I will say too, it works a little better than Jason's downgrading of what he says we do. And as he's actually doing the upgrade as well, even if Microsoft hasn't advanced to have, better features than we had developed ourselves, because of the institutional knowledge that Jason has and our team has, we're able to go through as he's getting ready to upgrade a chunk. We sort of critique it and say, do we still use this? Has our business changed? And we kind of critique it as well. So I think 2 upgrades ago, we had a list of easily 50 things that we sort of reassessed, checked in with the business, has something changed, maybe we don't need it. And we actually found things that we didn't do anymore that we could leave behind and keep cleaning up code as we progress each time.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I will say too, one more. I think we have almost always taken the approach to not only upgrade, but sort of optimize to the conversation that we're having right here. Like keep cleaning up code, keep going back closer to standard if we can. And so right now, one of the things we've lightly talked about with our next upgrade, in addition to everything Jason has said, is we would look to upgrade and optimize. So we're saying, okay, 3 months of work, and then, organizational testing and go live. But we're pressed right now with like 80,000 business-driven projects that we have going on. So while we hate to leave behind the opportunity to optimize, we're challenging ourselves. Can we imagine a world where we just upgrade and make it work? And then in theory, over time, we can optimize in smaller pieces and chunks with less business disruption. So we've never really done a hardcore in and out, maybe then it's a month of work and, then testing and roll out. But we're trying to challenge ourselves just because the business may not give us the window for some of the resources. So we're trying to juggle that as well. But our preference would certainly be to optimize.
A super good example of this is when we went to 2016 of trying to drop functionality. It's a little bit different, but we had 300 reports, and people probably remember the switch to reporting changed, and I think it was now 2013. So we went from 300 reports. There was a special thing you could do where you could record every time someone ran a report, who did it, what time they did it. We recorded all that, compiled it, and I think we probably have 50 custom reports now. So 300 down to 50. So that's a great example. There's just stuff that, if you guys aren't looking at it, stuff that has been created throughout the years and just kind of sitting there. We still have lots of stuff like that too. So every upgrade, we always reevaluate. But and to be honest with you, I barely write reports anymore because I don't really like the new report writer, and I've never really learned it well. So we typically will send things to Excel. So people like that anyway. So.
I have a question for you on that, Jason. Since you said like you switched to Excel reporting, have you started using the Power BI on that or not yet?
We have not, but we have, so I shouldn't say that. We have people in our company that use Power BI, the desktop version. So they go straight to the SQL database and they do lots of stuff with it. We have just recently purchased Jet Reports and implemented it. We're thrilled with it. We really like it a lot.
Jet Analytics, actually. Just Jet Analytics.
Sorry.
Jet Analytics. Okay.
For the Q piece of it, yep. And I would think we would probably get Power BI on top of that. So that's kind of the thinking. Doesn't guarantee we're going to do that, but that's probably the way we'll lean.
Okay, that's good to know.
I don't have it in my presentation, but we actually are connected to Power BI straight from Business Central. And we use that all the time. We actually have now both our US and our GmbH operations in, so that it enables us to do a lot of consolidated reporting right in Power BI, which is really nice. It's a pretty slick integration.
Yeah.
Nice. And I'm sure we'll happily answer any questions, but Melissa, I feel bad you're having to follow us. You want to jump into unless Kim's making us all dinner too.
No, I'm just making more drinks, and pretty much it's just going to be tequila straight in a glass. So that's it.
My presentation probably won't take as long because I think you covered a lot of the things that I would cover, and we're post integration, so not a problem at all. So Mark, if you want, or I don't know who's advancing.
Yep, I got it.
So my name is Melissa Campbell, but everybody calls me Missy. I work for Terso Solutions. We are an inventory management company using RFID, or radio frequency identification technology. So basically making people's inventory secure and traceable automatically. Also with consignment inventory. So vendors are able to keep their stock in, let's say, a hospital, which is one of the biggest applications we have. So a third-party vendor has their stock at the hospital, and the hospital only has to pay for it when they take it out of that inventory management system, whatever it is. We have multiple solutions. So that's kind of what we do. We are a smaller company. We're between 15 and 20 million right now. We're looking to grow that to, well, to double that maybe in the next 3-4 years. So we're growing very, very quickly, especially with COVID. People are realizing how important it is. The hospitals are realizing how important it is to know where their inventory is at and to be able to trace the high value inventory. So if you want to go to the next slide. Just talking about a couple things that are new. So Jason spoke a little bit to the updates. These updates are automatic, so you lose a little bit of control over when those updates happen. I say a little bit because the big upgrades that happen in April and in October, they do give you the option of when you want to implement that upgrade. There are also little upgrades throughout the rest of the year as well that you don't get, well, we haven't gotten notifications of. You get a notification after it's been upgraded saying, hey, your Business Central environment has been upgraded. And it's, you know, I don't think after any one of those smaller upgrades, with the exception of one, which I will talk about, ever created an issue for us. The big upgrades, you have to be a little bit more careful. Some of your extensions, which are your customizations, might break. So you just kind of have to be a little bit careful about that. Another big change is the user interface. For us, well, I should say for me, so coming into the company, I had never been working in Navision before. I started the company in August, and that following February, which was a year and a half ago, February, we upgraded to Business Central from Navision 2016. So very quickly after I started there, I was still getting to know Navision, but yet I managed the project and I did it successfully. So, hey, it can't be that bad, right? I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it. After we upgraded, I found the navigation much easier to use as an end user. And I think it's because it is that Microsoft product that has that Microsoft feel now. You have a couple of different menu options. I have a picture there of what it looks like. There's pros and cons to it. The one thing I would say about going back to the updates as it relates to the user interface and the end user experience is that a lot of the updates when we started, or since we started to now in the last year and a half, those updates have kind of closed a gap between what was available to end users in Navision versus in Business Central. So things like the navigation bars and just, you know, being able to have 2 screens open at one time, because most of us have probably 2 monitors now, right? How would we ever live with one these days? I mean, I don't know how we did it. So just some great upgrades since we have gotten on Business Central that really have closed that gap. So it's been much, much better. And then customizations. So customizations are done a little differently. Jason spoke to the technical side of that. I don't have that technical knowledge. We do have a developer, a third-party developer who has been fantastic working with us. And once those customizations are in, for the most part, you don't have to touch them when the upgrades come through. Like I said, every once in a while, there might be a hiccup. If we go to the next slide, I'll talk about that one upgrade. So third-party plugins. So yes, your add-ons. Your add-ons are really super important. Knowing where your third-party add-ons or the plugins, knowing where they're standing with Business Central. When we went live, we only had one plugin, and that was Avalara. And we were okay for a little bit. And then one of the minor upgrades came through, and basically, you know, after weeks and weeks of trying to figure out what happened, found out that Avalara wasn't ready for that upgrade. Avalara is not does not have a direct connection to Microsoft. So any development work they do has to go through Microsoft, get approved by Microsoft before it can be put into the system. And that takes a really long time. So for the month of July of last year, we could not process transactions at all. for the whole month. That was a nightmare. That was a nightmare. Yeah, it was pretty bad. We ended up having to do things very manually. It was awful. We weren't getting quite the response we would have liked from Avalara. It took a long time. They didn't seem to really care that we weren't going to have any revenue for a whole month. So that we weren't very happy. We weren't very impressed, to be honest with you. They and it was a recurring thing where they were always behind the upgrades, it seemed. So we would have to like try and get with Microsoft to tell them we can't upgrade because Avalara is not ready. I don't know how that's going anymore because we have since switched. We couldn't take it anymore. We switched. We were done. Because we had continuous problems with it. We've gone to a third-party add-on now that is directly connected into Microsoft. And we were able, when we were doing, we're kind of pioneers in being on Business Central for the last year and a half. So we've kind of had to help the third-party partners know where their bugs are. So we did have a bug that came up in our testing when we were switching over to the new vendor, and we had an issue that came up, and within a week they had it fixed and in our environment for testing. With Avalara, that would take weeks, if not months. So just a word of caution. I'm not good luck to you guys. I'm just telling you.
Partner?
So what
so
did
far,
you move
so
to?
good.
What did you go to?
Vertex.
We moved to Vertex.
Vertex.
Because they do international. Their pricing is a little bit different, more favorable, not upfront necessarily, but the per transaction, like we were talking about before. We're so far so good. We've been really happy with their response and how they've handled it. Now we don't have another, anything else that we're connecting into, so that makes a big difference, right?
Which wave upgrade was that you had the problem for?
It actually wasn't a wave, because the waves are the big upgrades. It was a minor one. It was one of the minor upgrades, yeah. Okay. So just be careful, make sure, yes, they're gonna say, somebody had said in the chat that it is it does work with Business Central, and it does work with Business Central in theory, and it might be a top rated app, but those are our experiences. And in talking to others in the community, they've had similar experiences as well.
So Missy, unfortunately, there's a pattern of that over the years. And I don't know if Andrea, you experienced that, but I had a client, we were going from 2009 to 2016 in 2016, and there was a problem with Avalara's code in 2016, but I can't remember, we were one of the earlier ones for them going into 2016. Our developer fixed the problem, told Avalara what the problem was, and Avalara rolled it out 4 months later.
Yeah.
They were even given the code to fix the problem.
Yeah.
So they're known for really slow, and you probably know that, but really slow turnaround. But to Jason's point, we could get into the code before. You can't do that now.
Yeah, that's the difference, right? That's where the rub is, for sure.
Yeah. So we've actually had the opposite. Just so you know, with our clients, we've had so many problems with Vertex and 0 problems with Avalara with BC Cloud.
Well, that's just so interesting. I don't understand why we had so many issues with BC Cloud then.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think it also depends on like your type of orders, where your customers, where your sales are originating, how, there's just so many things with tax. Yeah. It's just so hard to figure out. But yeah, we've actually had the opposite. I won't even talk to Vertex at this point. I'm so mad at them. But anyway.
And I've also seen it depending on who you're working with at Avalara and the partner's relationship with their partner development manager. Because if you have that person's, it just depends on how the partner approaches it. But I've seen 2 implementation leads at Avalara share completely different answers to the same question, and then you escalate it quick enough, and so that inconsistency is there. I think that's more of they're growing so fast and the training is there, but if you get to the right person, we have 3 go lives this year alone on Avalara and Business Central, and they've gone very well and made it through the updates.
I
Okay,
think
well, that's great.
Avalara might have given you guys a check on the side to say that. Is that true? Maybe.
Like I said,
sunglasses. We get orange sunglasses from them.
Yeah.
That's about all they give. That's about all they give us.
Yeah, and a beach ball.
Nice.
And as I said though, I mean that was last February that we went live. You know, we had a lot of those issues last calendar year, not necessarily this calendar year, so they may have gotten better and kind of caught up a little bit now. But that was our experience, and we didn't pay for the hypercare or the super service, whatever they call it these days. You know, but I just just to kind of give full disclosure.
Yeah, and I personally, with a lot of ISVs, I've seen that over the last 12 months, just working with Microsoft's that's been a challenge to get things approved. So it's not just them, but thanks for sharing that. Wow.
Yeah.
Things definitely change. Vertex, last time I tried to deal with them about 2.5, 3 years ago, they absolutely refused to provide any kind of support for an older version of nav. I mean, it just basically said, nope, we cannot give you data for you to build a solution. We cannot support that nav thing. So I'm glad they've, I guess, seen the light and said, well, we need to support Business Central and make it work. What I wanted to ask you, Melissa, is if you've put in place anything to prevent that horror story going forward. Do you actually test new monthly patches in Sandbox before they hit production?
We don't have that option. If there is an option to do that, I've asked for it before. If there is an option to do that, please let us know. You can certainly do that with the big waves, but not the little updates in between.
Each little touch really needs testing. Has anybody else had any experience in getting
Yeah, I knew
close
that
to
wasn't an
BC?
option up front, but I thought like 2 versions ago they announced you'll get to schedule even the monthlies.
We haven't been able to thus far.
No.
Mark, you get to schedule.
So if anybody
them.
is aware of a way to do that,
yeah, you can schedule it. But
Melissa,
you
I
can't
can get you with that.
pretest.
that'd be great.
Okay.
I was just going to say then for lessons learned, the setups and navigation, knowing that ahead of time is going to be very important, and setting expectations for your end users. When we went live, we really relied on the 5 Ps: planning, preparing, permissions, because permissions for us back then were a very big deal, changing from nav to Business Central, patience, and pizza for our end users, because that goes a long way. Unfortunately, with COVID, it all changed, but if we're ever back in when you go live, pizza can go a long way.
Excellent.
G for Grubhub, you're gonna deliver food to your users.
Can. Yeah, we've since upgraded our GmbH operations this past February, so a year later, almost to the day. And that was very smooth. It's just been, they were very smooth upgrades for us. So very, very successful. We really like the product, and what it does give to the end users. There's a little bit, you kind of have to take a step back a little bit, but then as you get into it, you realize all of the features and functionality that are really cool in Business Central that weren't available in Nav. That's all I have. Can we all drink now?
Excellent.
Cheers.
I just wanted to confirm, I went out there and looked there, as was stated, there is no preview capability on the monthly updates, only on major releases. And the preview is what you get to see in Sandbox that allows you to pre-test.
Ouch. Well, that kind of reminds me of a Bill Cosby routine that came to mind when you were talking about getting notification that the update had just happened. He did a routine about driving, I don't know where in the country, but they would put the dip sign right next to the dip, so you couldn't see it until you were right on the dip. And he was really frustrated by that, and he shared that What he thought it would be better is if they moved the dip sign after the dip so that it just confirmed you just hit a dip.
Right?
Excellent. Hey, wow, what a very interesting and fast hour. Any other quick questions? I think we've taken enough time for everybody, but any other quick questions?
I do.
Yes.
Real quick. So Missy, you were new to NAV so you had a short period of time on NAV before you went to Business Central because you were newer to the organization. How was user adoption or the challenge for the users who had been using NAV for a longer period of time and made the switch over to Business Central? Can you talk to that for maybe just a minute or two?
Absolutely. Yeah. I can tell you that they did have a little bit more struggles than I did in trying to find things. But we had, I think, 1 or 2 user trainings just to kind of say, okay, here's your menus now, here's the search button, here's what, and once we did that, it was crickets after that. Nobody really was saying, how do we find this? So it was very well adopted by our end users and very quickly adopted. With GmbH, we're not even there. We weren't even there when we went live. So, for them, I still get emails from our main user saying, I love it. I love Business Central. And she was a longtime NAV user. So if does that answer your question?
It does, and that's good to hear because I think we hear about the resistance, just like when you go online and look in social media, you see all the complainers. You don't see a lot of people going on there and saying, hey, I used NAV for years and I want to tell you, I love Business Central.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I would say, I mean, I'm glad you asked that question because I think I'm maybe on the other side of that because I'm still waiting for it. But by the time we're ready to upgrade to the, a SaaS model, it's going to be BC21 or something like that. And it's going to be amazing and everything will be better. There's still some things that are, slower and clunkier and things like that. Definitely many things that are way better. But it's kind of like if you guys think back, if you went from classic client to the Windows client, I don't think we had much of a problem besides training. Like I personally loved it. Like I just love save views. I loved all that stuff. And those things are now, most of them are built into the web client, which is good. I mean, if you went to like BC15, like they didn't have save views in that version and stuff like that. So that would be really, really difficult. So, but I'm not worried for ourselves because like I said, it's going to be version 21 or whatever by the time we get there.
So Jason, I think you just brought up a good point, like 2009 R2. But I'm sorry, it was terrible. And BC14, I hate to say, again, if you're talking about the browser client or whatever. So I think when they finally get it tuned in, each new user interface does trump the one before. I mean, they are definitely improvements.
It keeps getting better.
It does. And saved views was one of those things that was not available when we went live, but it is available now.
Or the Explorer. That was the big one for a lot of people.
Yeah.
The Explorer.
Yeah.
And it's real. I mean, honestly, it's so heartwarming to keep hearing that Microsoft is pushing and moving and forward and they're just all in on keep making it better. It's not like it's missing something and it's taken a year. It's to hear you guys say like, no, it keeps getting better quickly. I think that's really fantastic news.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled they're concentrating on the user interface now because they have the time to. I mean, that's been a big piece of it too.
Right.
And I do want to say from a technical point too, if I know they've been really quick in, if you as a developer contact them or submit the request for, I need a event publisher here because of whatever, it's in the next release basically, in the next monthly release. So yeah, they are on those. If you have your justification in order, it's there. I mean, so they understand that we as a developers and end users, well, they have to be able to have these things. Otherwise, this solution is not gonna hold up.
That's a super good point. And that when we went to NAV 2018, that's exactly one of the things. Part of that was finding events that were missing for us, because they have tons of events all over the place. Every version there's more events, more hooks. But that is part of upgrading. When you go to BC4, if you go to BC14, that is that you need to have BC17 or whatever version right next to you, and you need to know what events are available. And if they're not there, you need to absolutely get them added. So right. They'll be there when you go.
And that's actually what I do today. So I'm at a client. They're still on a nav 2016, and we now actually start finally dabbling to getting upgraded. But my rule to all the developers is, if you have to edit or add something to a standard object, spin up a Docker container with the latest version of Business Central. Is there a publisher there? Copy that publisher in, because once we're ready to actually do the upgrade, it's going to be minimal work for us to actually attack that.
Yep, well said, definitely.
Yeah, great points. Okay, thank you everyone, especially Andrea, Jason, and Missy. What a great conversation. I really, really appreciate it. I think everybody else does as well. What a great amount of sharing of experiences and information there. You can post questions out via the comments in the meetup events or the meetup group. If you think of something after we hop off here, I'll keep my eye open for that. And if you can't find that, let me know. I'll be happy to help you with that as well. So we'll post the recording out there. And again, thank you for our facilitators and presenters today, and everybody else. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you on the December call.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks. See you later.
Get on.